Hey, how are you doing? I just want to warn that I have the lowest energy today. So if you feel my voice is not as bubbly as usual, I have the worst migraine. I just got on top of it so I could record the podcast. It's the day before I release it. So I'm like, I don't want to miss a week. And I know it's due to my perimenopause that I'm struggling with right now. And I've done everything right, sleep-wise, diet-wise, exercise, everything, diet. And so I'm just trying to find menopause coach right now to find the right hormone treatment I can take. I'm sharing this with you because I want you to not put up with any crap. If you are feeling some symptoms that you are tired and your doctors are not kind of helping, just keep going. Like find literature, find podcasts, find anything that can help you in whatever you're suffering with. Don't give up because there's so many people out there that specialize in different things, in chronic diseases and menopause, whatever it is. And there's a solution for everything. And you just need to find the right person. So don't let anybody just brush you off with, take some painkillers or whatever they say. Like you just need to find the right people to support you, which is what I'm doing right now. Just wanted to share that with you to support you in whatever you might be going through. And today I want to talk about death and destruction because I am making an email series for all my email subscribers where I want to kind of address the 6 major causes that veterinarians burn out or get stressed and leave the profession or have terrible thoughts about their own demise. And one of the big causes that came out when I researched it is us performing euthanasias. And it's not something I write a lot about or give a lot of thought because I have reached such a point of calmness around euthanasias. It's just not something that affects me. And I have, as much as it did in the beginning, when you're new grad, it's something huge, isn't it? Perform euthanasias and getting it right. And I'm also not at a point where I'm cynical and don't really like myself anymore and just get it out of the way. I felt I reached a really good balance a while ago, and that's why I don't give it too much thought. But of course, there are a lot of us that are going through struggles around euthanasias. And I remember when I first started doing out of hours, emergency work, I sometimes literally felt like Dr. Death. The first place I worked at, when I had a contract and was working steady at one place, I had, because we were night vets, we had a black uniform, black scrubs, and I just felt like I was this like black angel killing everything that came in through the door. And of course, when you do emergency work, a lot of stuff that comes in through the door, I would say probably 50% what comes in is either dying or meant to die soon. So I do a lot of euthanasias, and that's why I've had to do a lot of work on myself, and I found peace with it now. But I remember what used to bother me a lot with euthanasias was, first of all, beating myself up because euthanasias was not rounded off to perfection. I didn't get it all right. The animal would struggle. I wouldn't be able to find the vein, or if I found the vein, then they would do some horrible gasping noises, and I wouldn't have prepared the owners for that. I remember there was this is a tragic story, but it's quite a funny now, many years later. One of the first euthanasias I had to do by myself as a new grad, when I was still not that comfortable finding a vein. I mean, now I actually placed the catheter in, I think, a less than 2 kilo Yorkie that was like dehydrated, the crispy ones. It was seizing, and I could place an IV in them now. But back then, when I was a new grad, the first year was such a struggle. I could not understand how anybody could find any veins anywhere unless it was like a greyhound. And I went out to a home visit to put down this cat at home with these people, and they had this idea that the cat should die on the terrace where would normally have this view to the mountains. This was in Spain. And in Spain, by law, you have to sedate the animals first, which is great, right? Because if you're a new grad and you struggle, you don't want anybody to pin down the cat. And if it's a home visit, who do you get to hold the cat, right? And raise the vein for you. So I sedated the cat, and then all the veins disappeared from the body surface of this animal. And I remember there was a point where my brain literally thought, and I obviously rejected the thought, but I was like, if I could just look away for 1 minute, I would just sit on the cat, because obviously there was like this cat I had given so much sedation, it was comatose, but I was literally just like, if maybe I can, I don't know, choke it to death or something, just die. I was so desperate. It sounds horrible, right? But my brain was just like, I don't know how to kill this cat now. I don't know how to do it. I couldn't find the hat, nothing. I just went into panic. And I definitely beat myself up a lot and see, must be, I don't know if it's 20 years ago now, and I still remember how traumatic that was and how I was trying to keep a face in front of the owners and try to, obviously the animal wasn't suffering. I had made sure of that. I'd probably given it like a triple dose anesthetic, which is probably why I couldn't find the veins in the first place. But it was just very traumatic. And I definitely beat myself up for days and days and days after. And then another thing that would really bother me doing euthanasia was having this niggling thought of, could we maybe have saved it? Should we maybe not have put it to sleep? Which is also one of the thoughts the owners is going to be struggling with if you haven't had a really good conversation with them about it. Could we have saved it? And most of the cases, no, they wouldn't have pulled through. But when I recommend euthanasia, because say it's got lung cancer or it just got whatever it is that I think is not compatible with life or good quality of life, I would have the doubt afterwards. Like, did I really make the right decision? Could we have saved it anyway? Did I just say, let's put it to sleep because maybe I was too tired to try and wake it up? You know, I had that niggling thought and that would keep me awake afterwards. And in other occasions, I would have been maybe over optimistic, and I would say to the owners when they came in, I'd be like, oh no, we can fix this. This is not a problem, because I would just assume that the animal maybe had something it didn't have, which is, with experience now, I know not to assume anything and not to promise anything when owners come in through the door. But as a new grad, or at least a few years in, you still don't know how much you don't know. So I would maybe promise people and giving them the wrong impression that their pet is going to make it, and then have to actually turn around and then say, actually, it's not going to make it and we will have to put it to sleep. And then I would beat myself up for giving them false hope and then have to take it away again. And sometimes I would feel the weight on my shoulders for having to have so much responsibility. I really felt I was responsible for so many animals' death, and not really realizing that it's not in my control. We're doctors, right? What we do is we help the animal on its way, we avoid the suffering, and we help support the owners in the decision. But at the end of the day, it's not really our responsibility. We can only say what we think is best, and we can only do our best when we're doing euthanasias to make it as nice an experience as possible for the owners and for the pet. No, and sometimes I would have my doubt if I was doing the right thing with behavioral euthanasias. Some animals would come in pretty desperate because maybe their dog had bit them or the cat had gone crazy and attacked everybody in the house, and they would not hear a thing about trying to send to behaviorists. Because you know how people are, they just keep going, not really taking any advice. And by the time they come to you and you try to refer them to a behaviorist, which is would always be my first choice, then they say, oh no, it's too late, it can't be done now, which is a shame, right? And then you would have to put it to sleep because now it's trying to kill people. And then I would have the doubt, like, oh, if I just recommended, if I could have talked them into seeing a behaviorist. And sometimes I would struggle because I would have to put down a patient I knew very well. I remember when I had my practice in Spain, there was a dog, Ariel, lovely. He was what was he? He was what do you call him? See, this is the brain fog from the menopause. The shepherd dogs that sometimes go crazy. He had, anyway, from very young, we diagnosed him with kidney failure, and we had to support him, and we did a lot of tests, and we did all these things right for him. And in the end, we have to put him down fairly young because he just didn't recover, and that was so sad. And I knew the owners very well. I had put the other dog when that was all down, and it was just so heartbreaking. No, so I would grieve that. So we have all those issues we battle with when we are vets, right? And when you think about it, there is no other profession like ours with these kind of struggles, where you both have to, first of all, like, of course, in Switzerland, they have euthanasia, but they don't tell people to euthanize themselves. You just go there with your mind made up, and then you get the paperwork ready, whatever. But we actually have the discussion and have to help people make the decision or talk them out of the decision if we don't think it's right. And it just feels like a lot of weight. And sometimes we have to make the decision because people don't have money. It just feels like a lot. And there is not a profession with these struggles, and we are not prepared for it. First of all, we're not prepared for having so much death at our hands. In society, we don't talk about death at all. It's just a thing to be avoided at all costs. You see it especially with cancer patients, both in animal and humans. It's like death equals failure, because it's like they lost the battle to cancer, or they lost the battle to whatever, or we lost these people. It's just always equals failure. So it's something instinctively we don't want death to happen because it's a bad thing, which is not truth at all, right? Sometimes death can be the best option for patients that are terminally ill, and we can't help them, or people don't have the money to give them the treatment they need to recover, no? And then grief is even less talked about, like our grief, if it's a patient maybe we knew really well, or we knew the owners well, and never mind the owner's grief, which has so many facets and it can turn so many ways. You know, they cannot be coping with the grief, and we have to be there as a shoulder to cry on. They have to talk it through with us. Like, there's so many tragic cases, right, where you put down a dog and this dog was left from their son who died in a motorbike accident, and it's like the last thing to go from their son. I remember a lady where we had to put down the cat, and she got the cat as a kitten when she was pregnant with her baby, and then she lost the baby like super late in the pregnancy, and the cat was everything was, you know, there's so many stories of the dead wife's dog, and they offload that on you, you know, that grief. And sometimes that grief turn into anger, and then they put in a complaint against you for no obvious reason to us at all. And we have no tools to handle that, right? So when we have, of course, there are the straightaway euthanasias. You get in a Labrador, 16-year-old, has had osteoarthritis forever, now it has kidney failure. You can't give it anti-inflammatories anymore, whatever, and you make the decision together, and it's all, you go to home visit, it's all nice and peaceful, great. But there are a lot of euthanasia that are not like that. And when we come out of them, our brain will be spinning, you know, trying to make sense of it all. And then it comes up to random conclusions in the middle of the night, no? So first of all, I want you to know that you are not alone juggling all these things. I want you to know that we all been through it, and there's just nothing you can do about it apart from obviously going through the euthanasias, taking them one at a time, realize that each situation is unique, both to you, to the animal, and to the owners. There's so many factors that play in, so it's very rare you have two euthanasias that are exactly the same. And I can definitely advise that you work on these things and that you get prepared for trying to have a perspective, both when you go in, during, and after the euthanasias, instead of just letting your brain randomly spin and come up with all these conclusions about why you've done it wrong, why the owner should have done something different, why the animal has suffered so much. That, like, don't you let your brain spin, no? And there's kind of four principles, four rules I have worked on for me that I kind of like now remember before going into any euthanasias. It comes automatic to me now. I don't need to do it anymore, but it's something I've worked on, and to come to a point where I'm in peace with most euthanasias now. And also, there's never 100% guarantee, right? There's never a time where I can say that I can go to work and come out next morning, because I do night shifts, right? And say everything went perfectly, and whatever didn't go perfectly, I just coach myself on and I feel great. There will always be cases that get to you, but at least don't let it be so many, and at least don't let them get to you so much. Don't be a robot with no emotions or become all cynical. That is not the way either. I think as vets, I mean, we came into this profession because we loved animals in the first place, and we don't want to become automats or just have so much compassion fatigue, which is like, oh, just kill it, it'll just be easier. You don't want to go to that place because it's not going to be aligned with your values as a human and as a person you became why you became a vet, you know, that personality you have, and it's going to feel awful and that you are going to burn out. So these are the things I advise you to think well about before euthanasias and after euthanasias. So the first thing, if you doubt is the right thing to do, if you doubt, for example, if it's a behavioral euthanasia, if it's the end of life euthanasia and you think they could have a bit longer, if the diagnosis is not nailed down 100%, let's say osteosarcoma, and they don't have money for a biopsy, or you're not 100% sure what is on the x-ray, you think it's cancer, it could also be a really severe pneumonia. If you're doubting and you're thinking, oh my God, I could be stealing time away from these animals and the pet owners, like you actually never gonna know. Like, even if they had all the money and you tried to save them and you tried to do everything right, you just know there's no guarantee they'll have a good life. Let's say it's a cat that has been run over and it's got the complete pelvic fracture, it's got tail pull, whatever. You think that maybe if it had been fully insured and you could refer it, it might have been saved. Okay, that might be true, but this cat could get diabetes within the next year. It could get heart failure within the next year. There's just no way for you to know. We guarantee if they'd had the money and it got referred, it would have 12 years of amazing life left. You just don't know. It could be a urinary obstruction cat within 6 months. You just don't know. You don't know the consequences and of anything you do. And with euthanasias, it's actually the only way you 100% can assure owners that their pet is not going to suffer ever again. Right? So to control your brain when it comes up with all this, oh, but if they'd only had the money, oh, if I'd only done this, oh, if they'd only come in time, because you actually don't know whatever your brain is coming up with, if that's true. And the only way you can guarantee a zero suffering is with euthanasia, no matter what. Another thing I want you to think about, and I've seen this now in humans, I have unfortunately lost a few humans along the way in the last couple of years, and it's not always been nice and peaceful. And I have thought over the years how lucky we are to have this option, to be able to put animals literally out of their misery. Because there's at least a couple of humans I have seen where I was literally patting my pockets, wanting to grab a syringe with the pink juice or blue juice, depending on what you normally use, and just help them away from this earth, because what a fucking misery they went through, you know, for no reason. You have like 40, 60, 80 years of an amazing life. What is the point on you spending the last 6 to 12 months absolutely suffering, having an awful time, and the people that you love that are left behind really struggle to remember all the beautiful things they shared with you, because all they can remember is this horrible time in the end where everybody knew it was going to end anyway, and what was the point, right? That I feel very strongly about that in humans, and I definitely know what I would want for me, and I think we are incredibly privileged to be able to do this with animals. And I always say this to owners as well, this is such a privilege to be able to do this, and it's not something we should do lightly, but it's definitely a privilege. A third thing I want you to remember is that the animal doesn't know what it misses out on. If it says it's got cancer or it's got some chronic renal failure, it's possible, yes, it might have some good days left. It could be. It could also be that you talk the owners into trying, say, some preds, or, you know, let's do some fluid therapy or whatever it is you think could help it, make it feel a bit better, and it would still have some horrible weeks left or days left. So I think it's very important to remember that animals don't know what they're going to miss out on. They don't have any conception of, is that a word? Perception of what they want to do in the future, and plans they're going to miss out on. It's only the owners that have these ideas and these projections into the future about what they would have liked to do with the animal. But the animal doesn't know what it's going to miss out on. And so what if you could maybe had make it live another month, but then it's only got 3 good days left in those months? I think it's really, really important to focus on the life it's had up to now, however long or short that is. And I also always make sure I get the owners to share this with me, and when we end the euthanasia, depending on the relationship, I can kind of build with them in that short time. If they just come in for the emergencies, I will ask them, oh, I bet it was the cutest little bundle of fluff when you got them, or wow, you must have done a good job, look how much muscle you got. Like whatever I can, I will wring out something from the experience with the animal to ask them to share, and I will get them to show me pictures of things they've done with their pets, if I can build that kind of relationship, to make them also focus on the good life we've had up to now, and not sit here and cry about the times we could have had it kept living. Because the animals are not missing out, they don't know, right? They don't think about they don't have a bucket list that they're going to miss out on. And fourth, regarding if you feel out of alignment, put on an animal down because you would have tried more, or you just wish they would have had this money, or you don't agree with behavioral euthanasias or whatever, then remember, it's impossible to agree with all the owners coming in through the door and have this like good chemistry and full alignment, let's work together, full trust in each other, because we are such different. Like, we're all humans and we all have different stories from the past, different perspectives. And Even if you don't agree with them 100% in the moment, it might be right for them and in their condition. You just don't know their financial situation, their family situation, whatever's happened to them in the past. Like sometimes as well, I think we're really quick to judge owners. Say if you get a cat with hypothyroidism or a blocked urinary bladder cat, and we're like, oh, well, you should try. But if these owners are just like incapable of medicating, they hate bringing the animals into the vet, they just have these busy lives, and it's very likely that the animals are just not gonna get the treatment and the test they need for all these different reasons. It might just be the best options for them and their pet in that moment, even if it's not what you would have chosen for your animal, because you're different. You see that maybe pet ownership as a different responsibility. You might have a different financial situation to them, the time, so be really careful judging people, even if you don't agree with them, and feel like in order for you to feel peaceful and great about any euthanasia, you should feel, there should be 100% alignment with the owners and you should all agree on it. Like because life is unfair, right? It's not like let go of the whole process has to be fair and it has to be perfect, and just focus on what you can do right now, which is advise them as much as you can. You can even say what you would do in this situation without any judgment, and then just let go of that control, which you don't have anyway, because if you refuse to euthanize and that's what they want, they're just going to find someone else. So how can you, within this unfair, imperfect mess, make it as nice and peaceful for them and for their pet? That is what I recommend to you to think about. If you have any other struggles that I haven't mentioned, because like I said, it's a while since I struggled with it, I had to sit and think what has been hard for me in the past. Feel free to reach out to me on socials or write me an email or whichever way you want to contact me and say you didn't address this and I feel really strongly about it or whatever, and I can do another episode, or I'll just, coach you on the spot, send you a response if I find it's a very unique thing that maybe not so many people join in on. That's what I recommend for you. I am actually doing a whole sequence of emails coming up to New Year now, where I'm going to address the 6 main reasons vets get burned out and why we have all these like negative thoughts and why we leave the profession. And I'm going to send out, so basically an email a week, and then give you a bit of time to integrate, and then address the next subject and give you like why it happens in our profession, why it's so normal. First of all, so you don't feel alone, you don't feel weird having all these negative feelings and self-doubt and what is wrong with me. And then I'm going to give you resources, so podcast episodes, books I've read, and then I'm going to give you like the main points I would work on for you to get better. And you will have an offer for a free consultation to address that specific point that affects you the most at the end of every series. So you have so many opportunities to course correct whatever might be burning you out right now, whatever is making you want to leave the profession right now before the new year, and start 2025 in a whole new, like, yes, I've got this under control, or at least feeling so many percentage better that you can, grab your career by the throat and go, this is what I want to do. I feel it's really important that we know what's going on inside our brains and not just like, oh, I feel burned out and you don't really know why. So I'm hoping addressing the 6 main causes and like go really into depth with them week by week, you're going to be able to identify which is the worst for you. Like I said, euthanasia has never been the biggest one for me. It's definitely been some of the other causes. So if you want to have the access to this email series, then subscribe. If you're not already a subscriber, I will send it out to all old and new subscribers. You're all gonna have this sequence. Then sign up for my newsletter, and then you'll get this sequence as well. So you can just put the link to signing up for this sequence in the show notes. And I'm hoping to support you as much as I can, and I'm hoping 2025 is going to be such a big year of change of vet med. I feel like I'm being invited to do courses and workshops now in bigger vet groups, and I'm hoping as well if I can reach vet schools, and let's just all together use these tools and change things around so it can be a profession that people can go into without fear of burning out within the first 3 years. Let's do it all together, and you're not unique and alone if you're burning out, and there's nothing wrong with you if you're having anxiety, panic attack, can't sleep, hate the profession, feel cynical, all these things. There are specific horrific causes that are happening to all of us. The tools are there. I've done it. So many more people have. I want to encourage you to not give up. But if you want to leave BetMed, there's never any judgment. That's something I coach some of my clients on as well. And sometimes they leave and then they come back once they've kind of like gotten everything right in their heads and what they want to do and become more emotional resilient. So you can leave, you can come back, you can leave and not wanting to be a vet anymore. There's no judgment whatsoever. But we fought very hard to become vets all the way. And I just feel like if it's really what you want to do, then it's a shame to give up on it because you don't have the tools to deal with all these issues that are really difficult and very, very unique to our profession, like euthanasias. I have the tools for you. There are more tools out there. I am happy to share everything. I'm happy to do free coaching for you. If you can't afford it, give you a couple of free sessions. So at least you know where to go with it. Reach out to me, book an appointment with me. And if nothing else, sign up for my email list so you can get this sequence and be so equipped for next year. All right. It was very good to speak to you today. Hope to see you next week.